What is most interesting about this time of our cultural awakening, which is meaning awakening that our cultures were something created from a state of amnesia as a result of the Tower of Babel, is that when we remove this old reality because we realize how ridiculous it is and melt away everything that is a part of that old reality, when we have that cultural awakening, when we move beyond it, that is what causes the DNA awakening. The removal of that old belief system, the removal of everything that came from those old sets of cultures that were created by groups of people who had amnesia because their mind was separated from their heart, because they had their fifth dimensional template separated from their second dimensional template of reality. It distorted them into a wavelength that was just completely distorted, completely disconnected from the mind of God. So they were completely set within a state of amnesia. And when that is totally removed from our consciousness, that is what is required for our new consciousness, which is our old consciousness before the Tower of Babel, to reappear, for us to be reborn the way we were originally before all of those false ideas were placed in our heads. And what is interesting is each time we go through culture shock, meaning awakening to something about our culture that we weren't aware of before, such as right now, awakening to the fact that these cultures were recreated from the Tower of Babel. They were created because we were in a state of amnesia. They weren't created from some pattern that came from God. They weren't created because of some religious teaching that came from some great being saying you should create your world this way. That's not where they came from. They were man manipulated creations to form societies where there could be someone to govern a group of people, to control them and guide them into a version of reality that suited them. So when we wake up to that, we go through a culture shock, an awakening, rising above and beyond an old cultural belief, seeing it from the point of view of an outsider, just like going to some strange culture and being the outsider, looking at a culture and then being so disturbed by it, so awakened by it, that it lifts you to see something you didn't see before. Every time you're lifted out of an old belief and allowed to look at it and see it as you did not see it before, that is what causes DNA awakening. Each time we go through a culture shock, we have a DNA awakening. So by being shocked, by moving beyond the old belief, we wake up with a new awareness that sees beyond what one's eyes could see before, that was still locked inside of their cultural boundaries. Anything that is locked inside of your cultural boundary is locked within your old DNA. Your old DNA is just recreating that version of reality over and over and over again. A version of reality is not your version of reality. It is a man-made version of reality created by a group of people who were in amnesia at the time they created it. So we see these versions of reality and we start looking at them differently, and we see these were just things used to manipulate us.